What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. We got the NFL divisional round this week. As always, I am joined to break it down by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the GOAT, top three this year again, Sean Kerner. How's it going?
Yeah, so we both finished top 10. Congrats on the top 10 finish as well. Had a wild week last week, but had a good wild card weekend. Went like 5-2 on props. Kicking myself that I didn't take James Cook over 12.5 rush attempts. We were talking about that this time last week. I thought that line was way too low. I was projecting like 15.5. I thought I was crazy. Then I heard your projection. It was way higher than mine. But I'm kicking myself for not locking in over 12.5 carries last week.
Yeah, and I actually lowered mine a little too. So it always works like that, right? I mean, definitely early in the week we were on kind of that, like looking at that, they're probably saving James Cook for situations like this. We've seen that with Joe Brady. So we'll talk about stuff like that on this one as well. Get into each position. Only got that's 7 games left of football this year, right? Yeah, 4 games, 2, and then 7 games of football. And then because there's no Pro Bowl, so can get into these things and see if we get ahead of any of these potential prop betting situations here. We'll start at quarterback, and let's just go top 5 first. I know there's only 8 quarterbacks on the slate, but if you had to choose 5 of them to finish with that most fantasy points, who you got?
I got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh, I got Allen, Jackson, Daniels, Hurts, and Jared Goff, baby. But yeah, it's weird, like going Goff over Mahomes, but I like that indoor environment, and I like Daniels on the other side, offensively being able to push the Lions. So I'll roll with my guy Goff here this week. Who are you high on?
Yeah, I'm high on Patrick Mahomes. Again, it's real close. I have basically Mahomes and Goff tied right now. I think, Dave Montgomery coming back might, snipe one potential passing touchdown away from Goff. Who knows? But I like Mahomes this week. He's my QB5, ECR QB6. So I guess I'm high on him. Really splitting hairs this week with this, though. But Mahomes' supporting cast is the healthiest it's been all season. I loved how, rookie Xavier Worthy really trended up to close the season. I think he's going to be key in the playoffs. Mahomes was able to build chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins, who was added in season. And more importantly, Hollywood Brown was finally healthy at the end of the season. So I think they'll be able to unleash him here. It gives, Mahomes an extra deep threat. And of course, it's playoff time, so we should see Travis Kelce at his peak. And, as always, we always talk about it like this time every year, but Patrick Mahomes tends to scramble a lot more in the playoffs. So I'm giving him quite a boost when it comes to his rushing stats. So having said all that, he's just slightly ahead of Goff. But, yeah, like how can you knock on Goff? I mean, it's crazy Goff's the QB6 this week. I love him as well. But I think with Mahomes, supporting cast being fully healthy and the additional rushing upside, I have him just slightly ahead of Goff this week.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to speak for yourself there, because he's not my QB6. He's Goff's my QB5. That's the guy I'm high on, and I have him initial projections 1.3 points above Mahomes. So I have a pretty big gap here, and that's it's a little bit to do with. On the Mahomes side, I did bump up that Houston defense after that performance. The Kansas City Chiefs have a much stronger interior line, which will help against some of that pressure. But I still worry about Mahomes in that spot. But it's really about Goff, and this game total is going to be in the lower to mid 50s. I think it's at 55.5 right now. Lions totals are always super high, so I think that might come down. Who knows? But I think it's deserved. So. Yes, Montgomery coming back could bite into that, but we don't even know for sure exactly, until the week kind of kicks off where he'll be. But at the end of the day, I just really like what I've seen out of Jared Goff this year. He's kind of like the anti-Darnold, where it's like you always were kind of worried about Darnold. Like at some point, it's like, it's going to come crashing down, and it did these last two games where it's Goff. It's, I don't really have those same concerns because of the protection that he gets and this Washington defense. I didn't think the Washington defense really played all that well against Tampa Bay. I just thought Tampa Bay made a couple of crucial mistakes, that fumble and, the fumbles really. And that was that. So I think that Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Williams, Gibbs out of the backfield. I just think there's a lot of upside there. I'm probably going to try to find a way to bet. Like, I know you're usually good at these, like, the leader, wild card leader. I mean, division round leader in passing yards, things like that. Like, I think Goff has a lot of upside this week. So yeah, Jared Goff.
He's probably going to be the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be a plus money favorite kind of market, though, right?
Yeah,
you would think.
True.
Yeah, because you got Lamar.
Yeah, he's not going to be minus anything. He'll be the favorite, but like 2-1, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions win this game, but yeah, there's only a few more chances to kind of bet on Goff, and I feel like every week I'm like over market on his passing yardage, and it's like every week he puts up numbers. So I want to invest in him somehow, some way this week. Who are you low on at QB?
Well, I think we're both low on this guy. He's my QB8, Matthew Stafford. Unfortunately, there's only 8 quarterbacks this week, so he's at the bottom of my rankings. But he was sharp in the opening round win over the Vikings, but this is just a brutal matchup against a very good Eagles secondary. The Rams will probably try to lean on the run game and defense to keep this, a lower scoring game. And then if they get down, they'll air it out. But it's hard to see Stafford being too efficient here. And, similar to Love last week, where Stafford doesn't have any, rushing upside to bank on in a tough matchup like this. And it's way too early to talk about weather report, but I know there's potential for some snow there. We'll see what happens. But either way, just Stafford, just barely under Stroud, but he opens week as my QB8, which ranks dead last this week.
Yeah, that he's the guy I'm low on too. And for all those same reasons, I think the biggest or the one break that the Rams offense may have caught, and I don't know, it is a break, but it still might not matter, is that Nakobe Dean is done for the year, and he was the guy that really was kind of communicating a lot to that defense, and now it's going to be, I think Zach Bond's going to wear the green dot and get the calls from Fangio, but sometimes you see a little bit of like some mistakes and miscommunications when that switches. So that is something to watch out for. But I totally agree. I think Matthew Stafford is in a really tough spot where, for production, because not only is the defense he's going against in the Eagles extremely good at limiting the opposition's production, but because of McVay knows that coming in, and there's been times this year where he has just gone super, super run heavy. And I think this might be one of those situations like you alluded to, that he just wants to hand the ball to Kyron. And last week, this wild card game, I thought they did a good job of kind of not over spamming the run early. Like, they came out and they threw it, and Kyron was getting a ton of carries. And I thought the Texans did a good job of that too. Like, they didn't just hand the ball up to Mixon early. But this week it could be a little different just based on the circumstances for Stafford. So yeah, I have Stroud about 1.5 even above of Stafford for this matchup.
Yeah, that's a good call on Nakobe Dean. Look out for Oren Burks tackle props this week.
Mm-hmm.
He had 17 in week 18. Filled in for Dean last week when he went out, had 9. So he's been able to rack up tackles. Maybe the Rams kind of go after him. So I'll be looking for his tackle prop this week.
Yeah, and we need some like first Kyron Williams carry overs for the first half. When the game is close enough, because they're probably gonna go crazy running the ball. But we'll be on the lookout for those.
Yeah, and he's okay, right? He picked up, he had that scary play, but he came back just fine, right?
I believe so. I always don't like to comment on injuries because we're recording this on Tuesday, as far as I know. But that injury reports this year, there's always a few surprises. So. Yeah, I don't think we know for sure until we see. But yeah, I believe he is good to go. All right. Let's go with a quarterback prop. I had the over on that highest passing last week, 362.5. I don't think anyone got close.
Nobody. What was it? Like the highest was like what?
Stroud, I think.
207. What did he have?
282 or 292 or something like that.
Oh, 280. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, Josh Allen got 272. So this week, let's
Russ
go
had
with
270. Yeah, low week.
So, I gotta switch this lineup a little bit because, actually, so I was gonna go with the Mahomes versus Stroud, but now that I know you're high on Mahomes, let me just see how high. Let's just see how high you are on Mahomes. So, let's go passing plus rushing yards, since I do agree that he does add a lot with his legs. Let's go with 259.5.
Oh wait, is this for who?
Patrick Mahomes. Passing plus rushing.
Stroud
passing
has nothing to do with this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go with a straight up kind of like Mahomes versus Stroud because I thought they were gonna be pretty close and make Mahomes like a little bit of a favor, but I think it's actually more interesting now, just to, like, because you have Mahomes the top 5, and but it's a tough matchup. So let's just go with 259.5 passing plus rushing yards. Are you on the over or under?
Yeah, I'll go over. I'm just a handful yards above that. But that's pretty good line. But yeah, I have it closer to like 268.5, somewhere around there. So give me the over. You think the Texans are able to keep that close?
I really my first gut instinct says yes, I do, but it's really going to be on their defense. I don't think I still worry about their offense. And are the Texans not the most anxiety inducing offense in the league? Whether you have a bet on them or if you're just if you're a Texan fan, you just watch that from play to play. I feel like even the plays that work are just so it's so tight. It's like they throw a lot into the middle of the field. They take these short dropbacks and let the ball go before the receiver turns around, and guys are always around the football. It just makes me so nervous. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah,
what do you think about the?
The Chiefs, obviously, they got lucky. They had a lot of close games, but they're the healthiest they've been. They've actually been playing better. So I think they're just going to be better in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think they covered the spread here. Obviously, I'm not going to take Chiefs minus 8.5. But, yeah, like you said, the Texans are just a nervous team to watch. They kind of got bailed out by Herbert playing, so awful. But, yeah, I think the Chiefs are ready to rock here. Hate to say it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bailed out. They literally just put Herbert in positions he hasn't really been in. I don't think I've seen a line outplay a good, or at least good tackles that was just crazy. That was like the Lions with their just man coverage, just obliterating the Vikings. It was just like, where did this come from? We knew the Texans were good, but the Chargers were supposed to be able to handle that pressure, and they just didn't. So that is something that's concerned, because the thing that we know with the Chiefs is they are fine, just squeaking by. It's not like the Chiefs don't come into games trying to blow people out, and that's why everyone's always talking about the Ravens and the Bills got all these 30-point games and blowout wins, and the Chiefs is kind of. I think the Chiefs' road to covering the spread is a 24-10, the under. Yeah. If you bet the Chiefs, I would bet the under, absolutely. I think that's their road to cover in the game, because I don't see the Texans being able to put up a ton of points either, but the Chiefs offense could still struggle, I think. All right, Sean. Well, I don't think we're going to see any Chiefs running backs in your top 5 for the divisional round, but who do you have in the top 5?
Yeah, I got Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Joe Mixon, and Kyren Williams.
Yep, same top 5 for me. I got Kyren and Mixon flip-flopped. Little more concerned about Mixon this week, just because the game script, as you alluded to, could favor throwing the ball a little more, and they didn't go to him that early. But I think they probably at least try to go to him a little earlier this week. The Chiefs have been good against the run. Who are you high on?
I'm high on Austin Eckler. I have him ranked ahead of both, or all 3. I don't know how many running backs the Chiefs have anymore, but I have him ranked over those guys. So he's in my top 9. And it's pretty tilting watching the Commanders try to bang Brian Robinson up the middle for your prop. And I had Austin Eckler total scrimmage yards over. So it was frustrating to see that. And they were even giving, Brian Robinson all those screen passes for the first, 58 minutes of the game. And then they finally put Eckler in there. They finally threw him a pass, and he went for like 15 plus yards. So hopefully this game, they're going to get down early enough and just kind of force their hand by playing Eckler over Brian Robinson more here. And I think this is a good matchup for Eckler in the passing game. The Lions have allowed the fourth most receiving yards per game to running backs. They've allowed a league high 8.3 yards per catch to backs as well. And of course, they use man coverage, cover one at the highest rate. And Eckler's averaging 17.3 yards a catch against cover one. So I think this is a great spot for Eckler to, rack up a few catches, maybe break a big one. And then maybe see more, rush attempts because, again, this does project to be more of a trailing game script where we should see him more than Brian Robinson. I think just after last week, hopefully they kind of correct their mistakes there. But either way, I'm high on Austin Eckler here.
Yeah, I mean, last week you kind of see that coming. Whereas I'm surprised they did it for as long as they did. I mean, he still came nowhere close to going over his rushing, and actually had his longest carry under two. That didn't. I don't even think he got into double digits. So, the Lions are a pretty good run defense too. So they've been really banged up, but they can still stop the run as well. So that's another thing. It's kind of the same matchup as last week. It's just Detroit plays more zone. I mean, more man and cover one. But kind of the same situation where you don't really want to be banging Brian Robinson, and it could be some trailing game script. I am high on your guy that came through for a touchdown show, Ty Johnson this week. Nice. This is a guy who's been trending up, before last week anyway. He probably kind of got on people's radars with that amazing catch in the back of the end zone, but he has been getting talked up by Josh Allen pretty much all year long as the league's best third down back, and that could really come into play in a matchup that's pretty evenly matched against the Baltimore Ravens here, because the Ravens are another one of these teams that you don't really want to run straight at them. Now, James Cook, I'm sure he's going to continue to be involved and he can get to the edge, but this does set up as a game where Johnson could have another big role, because this is another team that could get up in front of the Bills. I mean, we even saw the line go from Bills 1.5 point favorites to Bills 1.5 point underdogs. Curious to your thoughts on that. What do you see for this game script? I mean, it's kind of like an evenly matched game overall, but are you kind of in agreement with that line move, or do you think it's the Bills
what was the line move
getting
again?
Kind of overlooked here? What's up?
What was the line move again?
It went from Ravens as 1.5 point road underdogs to Ravens as 1.5 point road favorites.
Oh, they did open up at dogs. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I have it as a true pick'em. I think it's a coin flip, but I did think it was interesting that the Ravens did become favorites. I think just kind of the trend with their both defenses, the Ravens defense specifically, pass defense has gotten a lot better lately, and the Bills defense is starting to regress a bit. So I kind of get it from the context of momentum, but still, I think just either team getting points here, I'd be interested in. But anything under 3, it's hard to get too crazy over. But is that where you have it right now? Like the Ravens as slight favorites, or do you have it more of a pick'em?
Nah, yeah, I have it about a pick'em. I think I agree with you. I think it's not a massive edge. I mean, nothing really is at this time of year, but I do think that if I'm betting aside, I'm taking the points either way. I do think the Ravens have a slight edge on a neutral field. I slightly, but it's so slight. But the reason I bring that up is just because James Cook, great call by you on the that we're talking about that over carries prop last week. Like, he was just they were able to just continue to spam him essentially the entire game while it was close, and he racked up 23 carries, and then Ray Davis got hurt, so Johnson, ended up with 9 as well. But Johnson was working in over Davis even early in the game. Johnson's going to be the passing down back. So the Bills, they don't usually even play a lot of close games. I mean, they win a lot of blowouts and whatnot. So this week, I just think that, James Cook getting 23 touches probably goes down. Like, he's probably you would think he gets, less than that. So I think Johnson could be even more involved. And Davis probably isn't going to go this week, right? Like, it looked like he got concussed, I believe it was.
Yeah. He's probably in the protocol that's typically, you miss the next week, but it's the playoffs, so who knows? But it did seem like a pretty bad one. Yeah. So I'd be pretty surprised if Davis suits up this week, but plenty of time to see. And Yeah, I would assume he's out though.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really like how it sets up for Johnson because we know how much Cook has been a factor even in the regular season when we thought maybe hey they're just like saving up Amari Cooper and all these guys. They were just saving up James Cook, and Ty Johnson's another guy who when they get to the playoffs he starts playing more than Davis, so he's kind of in that same boat where I think he's just going to be a part of the game plan again against this Raven team, especially with their secondary getting better and Kyle Hamilton being in that defensive backfield. So like him again this week, I'm guessing one of us will probably be on his touchdown odds again, although they're gonna unfortunately shoot up after anytime the number 3 back scores a touchdown in that spectacular fashion. It's probably be overvalued, but we'll see. But that kind of is disappointing. But who are you low on at running back this week?
I mean, it's tough to say who I'm low on, but I guess it's Kareem Hunt. But this is a situation I want to talk about, if I'm being honest. But
yes,
this is a week where we're just gonna have to monitor Isaiah Pacheco's health because Pacheco's had enough time to heal from that broken leg earlier in the season to probably see a full workload here if he was healthy. But he picked up that rib injury, so he's dealing with a new injury. They had the bye week to kind of rest him up a bit. So we'll have to see. Like he could be all systems go 100% here, where he sees a full workload, or he's banged up, limited, and we see Hunt a bit more. But I did notice that Kareem Hunt's rush attempt prop was 9.5, which I thought was a bit too high. I think the market's starting to come down a bit, like at 8.5. And this is a tougher matchup against a Texans defense that's been really good against the run all year. They rank 3rd in DVO against the run, so it's just gonna be a tough spot for Hunt. In a limited role here, but again, this is something I'm going to monitor all week. But I'll be interested to see where these rush attempt props are between the two because the Chiefs don't run the ball a ton to begin with. Plus, they've been getting Xavier Worthy more involved in design runs and things like that. So this is probably a market I'll be watching for props. And initially, I was a lot lower on Kareem Hunt. I see that you have Hunt over 10 rush attempts, so I wanted your opinion on that. But do you have any idea? Is Pacheco good to go this week? Was it precautionary? Rib injuries can be kind of fickle. So have you heard anything about him?
I haven't heard anything about the injury in particular, but I have been kind of I think I've been throwing this out as a prop for you, those two guys head to head. I probably am going to lower both of their rush attempts so that it is early in the week. Usually the Chiefs are a little more pass heavy in the playoffs, so I'll probably lower both. But yeah, I think so. What I've been getting, the sense I've been getting is that like a full Pacheco workload is what it is now. Like I just don't think they view him as like the clear RB1 anymore. They really like what Hunt has kind of brought to the team in terms of his toughness and the ability to be a back that because remember earlier this year, they were running a lot. And, for his ability to just kind of take that punishment, give him, the ability to run inside. And you probably consider him a better pass protector than Pacheco, a better receiver than Pacheco, and a better inside runner than Pacheco. Pacheco's just got that explosive element, so he'll get his carries, but I think they view it more as like a true committee now anyway, where Pacheco is like that explosive guy, but Hunt is like their sustainer. So if you like the Chiefs to cover, I think you probably want to be a little higher on Hunt because he's also going to, I think he gets the goal line cards. We've talked about this. Pacheco just, for whatever reason, he's just struggled in those situations. And now you're talking about a guy with a core body injury, so that you probably would kind of worry about running him in between the tackles too much. And that Houston defensive line, very good. So this might be a Pirine game if it is close. This could look out for that. I would say so. If you could maybe fade both of these backs.
You think it'll be a Pirine if it's close? I was thinking if
it's close. If it's close, it could be a Pirine
for
game.
Sure. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking if I think the Chiefs are going to cover, I'm not going to actually bet the Chiefs. But I was thinking of Pirine's under 1.5 receptions. Yeah. But we're thinking the same thing is just this backfield is very tricky to project heading into the playoffs because of the uncertainty of Pacheco. And like you said, Hunt has been good, as a runner lately. But same thing with Pirine is, Mahomes is more likely to scramble in the playoffs, so that could take away from Pirine. A lot of moving pieces here, but definitely an interesting backfield to be projecting right now.
Yeah, I would say I was going to put like I was going to talk about Pacheco as a guy I'm kind of low on because I do think and I've been seeing this every week, like the market just kind of keeps waiting, and like he had that one game where he I think had a pretty decent split ahead of Hunt, and then it was like outside of that one game, it's been Hunt has kind of had the edge, the slight edge, and I just think that's the backfield at this point. It's running like those carry distribution tends to be pretty sticky. You just look back a couple games, just as long as the game script isn't too out of what you expect. And I mean, the Chiefs kind of similar situation. One possession favorite. So yeah, I think Pacheco might be the guy that the market would end up being a little too high on. But yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't know what being low on Kareem Hunt achieves, but I think either way, I'm looking for an angle. I'm looking for one of these Chiefs back to bet on the under, just because I think there's so much volatility here. If I could figure that angle by the end of the week, I think I'm going to want to fade one of these backs in some capacity.
I agree. I personally probably am leaning right now to Pacheco because I think like I said, the pass protection element looms very large with the Chiefs, having to move Tooney to tackle, or maybe they go back to, I couldn't see them going back to like Humphreys or somebody like that, but so that compromises their interior a little more, and protecting Mahomes always a top priority. He's going to scramble, so that means the running backs don't get catch. So like there's really Pacheco's probably going to have his designed plays and plays for him where they try to get something explosive going, but I could see his volume numbers going under at least. So yeah, that'll probably be the angle, but that's definitely something to look out for anytime a team. Yeah, three backs that are Carson Steele's not going to probably rotate in unless something goes very wrong or very right. But three backs in the backfield there's going to be some unders hit there. I'm low on kind of similar to last week, Brian Robinson Jr. Again, he's the consensus RB7. I don't know how much that means at this point in the year, but I don't know how many people are still submitting rankings. But either way, this is, he's the starting running back. So props tend to open up, kind of giving them that respect. But I'm with you. I think that this another matchup that favors Eckler. And we talked about this last week. Brian Robinson still doesn't look quite as explosive as he did early in the year, right? Like it's not just me.
Yeah.
I know he got the screens, but he doesn't look like Brian Robinson of the first maybe like 8 weeks, right?
Yeah, he looked really good in the first 8 weeks, and he looks, like an average Joe back there. Yeah, it didn't make sense, and they kept committing to it. I think they'll abandon that a little bit earlier this week, but you kind of said it. Similar matchup where, Lions have a very good run defense. Wouldn't make sense for them to keep pounding him inside. And yeah, he just hasn't looked the same. He's kind of had some funky usage. I think there was some games where he had like the perfect game script and they still didn't give him any carries. So it's been very weird projecting him lately.
Yeah, because what happened was it seemed, from what I think he's playing hurt. I don't know. I don't know if it's that serious, but he got so many injuries earlier in the year. Like there was a multitude of injuries that caused him to be on the injury report or miss games or parts of games. And then, like you said, every time they would have a good game script, when they would get up, they would pivot to Chris Rodriguez and McNichols so quickly in those games and pull Robinson. That just tells me that they might have been protecting him, or he might have been at least playing hurt before, and now it just kind of caught up to him or something. But either way, I would want to be on Eckler's overs. I would want to be on Robinson's unders. And now you're looking at a 10-point underdog, and the Commanders have kept most games close. I think they do have a good chance to keep this one, to one possession game. I think Jaden Daniels just moving around gives him that ability. But Brian Robinson being a guy who's going to get volume, I don't really see it for him, and he hasn't been as explosive. So nothing, just not much there unless he's getting into the end zone, which could absolutely happen, but a little more volatility there. All right. What are we doing for the prop? Last week was a good discussion on James Cook. Where are we going this week?
Again, I'm going to pick a guy that I don't think has a market yet. It's kind of a tricky situation, but David Montgomery, curious to hear where you have him. Right now I'm projecting him like 11 carries, 47 yards. So I'll set his median at 43.5 rushing yards.
Oof. If he plays, I'll go over that. Because if he plays, that means he's healthy. So I think he goes over that. I think this Washington run defense is kind of shaky. But yeah, it's a really tricky one because I just don't think they would risk him in this game if he wasn't healthy, right? Because you're a 10-point favorite. They've been giving Gibbs just massive workloads. So yeah, if he plays, that means he's good to go, which means I would expect, a normal David Montgomery workload, which could be anywhere from 8 to like 20 carries, if we're being honest. And there's going to be some opportunities for some explosive plays indoors against one of the lesser run defense. So I will go over that, but yeah, it is tricky because, it's kind of just, we're early in the week. We just don't know if he's going to play. Like, I don't think it's 100%. Like he said he was going to play.
I think he's expected to play. And yeah, they're always tricky. It's always tricky to project Gibbs and Montgomery any given week, but with Monty coming back, I agree. Like they want him to be pretty close to 100%. And just like, did you ever find any rhyme or reason which back would see the most carries? It seemed like they would just alternate every week. Sort of, I don't know, a way to keep both fresh. But it seemed like one week, if one back had more carries, it would flip the next week. So maybe since Gibbs has had, 3 straight games of workhorse role, they want to give Montgomery more work here. I don't know. They've always been tricky to project.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any true, like they're switching it up based on anything other than it's kind of a like 50-50 backfield. I think when they're looking for, tough inside running, they're going to go for more Montgomery. When they need speed on the outside, you're going to go more for Gibbs. I think Washington's a team that, you can run on them inside. Obviously Gibbs' speed is always going to be a factor, but I do think this matchup sets up just fine for Montgomery. But I think I don't think it's that much rhyme or reason. I think a lot of times these coaches aren't putting as much thought into it as we are as guys who have to project this, because it's just kind of like there's a guy in the game and then he either asks for a breather or like, the other guy goes in on third down, or they go drive by drive, and that's just that. Like, it's just like, or like, I don't like, it's like I get into this with the Steelers all the time, because it's like, every time you see a trend with Jaylen Warren, it's like, nope, we just go right back to same old Najee Harris, and Jaylen Warren, gets a couple catches and no carries, and so. I think they just want it to kind of be a 50-50 thing. I don't even think they view Gibbs as like your quote unquote like receiving back, because a lot of times Montgomery will be more productive in the receiving game, and he can pass protect. So I think if he's healthy and suits up, I would expect his normal workload, which then that line would be low for him. So I'm gonna just get ahead of that and go over. But if he's banged up, I would just sit him. I would hope they do too for my bet. This gets canceled. But let's go to wide receiver, top 5 for the division round. Who you got?
I got pretty close. Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra, Nico Collins, Scary Terry, and AJ Brown.
I got the same top 5, except my number 1 is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and my number 2 is Puka Nacua, only because, 2 reasons. Number 1, Lions indoor game, but the Commanders' best cornerback is Marshawn Lattimore, less likely to match up like with Amon-Ra, because Amon-Ra can move around a lot more. And I should say a lot more, but Puka Nacua is just like wherever he goes, he's going to face a good cornerback is pretty much the only difference, I think. Whereas Amon-Ra, there's more matchups that they can exploit. So I do have Amon-Ra above him. But like I said, I'm always high on Jared Goff too. So take that. I mean, it hasn't really gone against me either. So, but yeah, that's probably another reason. I probably have Goff's passing yardage a little higher than you do even. Who are you high on though at wideout this week?
De'Ami Brown, the Commanders. He had that nice breakout game last week. 5 catches, 89 yards, a touchdown. I think he keeps it going here against Lions, who use man coverage at the highest rate. Brown has actually seen his yards per route go up from 1.0 against zone coverage, which ranks 6 out of 8 pass catchers on the Commanders, up to 2.22 yards per route run against man. Leads the team. And this, should be a trailing pass-heavy game script for the Commanders. So going to be more dropbacks, maybe less 2 tight end sets. So maybe that also gets Brown, some more snaps in general. if they're trailing. So I think he sees, another big game here. He bailed the Commanders out. I feel like a lot of his catches were key, third and long type situation. So really good game from him, where he and Zacchaeus have been kind of splitting number 2 wide receiver duties here. But I just like this matchup better for him, just given how he has been, the Commanders' man beater outside of Terry McLaurin, obviously. So I think Diamond Brown keeps it rolling here, and he's inside my top 15 to open up the week.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the way this game could go, it could get out of hand in terms of like the scoring. Like this could turn into a shootout. I mean, you have the Lions offense off a bye, Commanders probably the worst defense left in the playoffs, and then you have a quarterback in Jayden Daniels who, if they need to throw it, he can get out of trouble and swing it around. And Brown is the guy that you can't really prioritize. You got to prioritize Terry McLaurin, and then you got to prioritize, I think, Ertz just and Eckler now. So Brown will probably get a little more attention, but I think he's one of him and Zacchaeus could kind of benefit from just the game environment of a potential shootout or trailing game script, either one. I am high on Jameson Williams this week. This Lions passing game, I think, coming off the bye, very efficient, and you're probably going to see him on Lattimore a bit, and I think that's going to kind of push people off of him. But I still don't think Lattimore is like the Lattimore of old. Like he's still, I think, a little bit gimpier than he looks. So I like J-Mo's speed, ability to get over the top. Washington will play single high and kind of have their corners on an island sometimes. So I like J-Mo to keep it rolling in this spot, and he's back to kind of his normal 90+% route rate, which is great because there was points in the season where he was only playing in the 70s 80% of the time on Goff dropbacks, and that is going to have a little bit of an impact, especially now we're only down to a few receivers. So those things do make a difference. But in this matchup, I think you're getting max snap counts. I think you're getting probably a carry or two designed because they love to get his speed working. So if Lattimore is locking him down, I think they will have a couple schemed runs. I think he got a long run in the playoffs at least once. I think he might have got a touchdown actually in the NFC Championship game on a run. So yeah, I think this guy's just dangerous, and the market might overreact to the potential for Lattimore to be on him because Amon-Ra plays in the slot. So I want to be a little higher on J-Mo. Every time I've been burned. So lesson learned.
Good week to be high on him. And Lattimore got burned last week, right? He was getting torched. Like they threw to Evans a couple times when he was on him, allowed catches, not too surprising. And then he switched over to guarding McMillan, who's obviously good as well. And then they just targeted him there. Like, seemed like Baker was like going out of his way to target Lattimore, who, he's been banged up all year. Maybe he's not even fully healthy. He's still learning the scheme. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried about Lattimore much here at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes you get that that reputation alone. But if you're just watching the game, I think he was really good earlier in the year on the Saints, and their cornerbacks did struggle without him. But this is not exactly the same guy. And the Lions tend to go over expectation in terms of what they can do in on both sides of the ball. Really, it's that they're very well coached. So like J-Mo this week. Who are you low on?
I'm low on Keon Coleman, just because, last week was only the second game, I believe, where all Bills wide receivers were healthy since the Amari Cooper trade. So we kind of got to see how it would divvy out. And it was pretty crowded in terms of routes run rate, especially since Curtis Samuel had a big role and a big game. He actually led the team in receiving last week. So I'm assuming he's going to kind of keep a similar role this week. So it was, Shakir had, about 75% routes run rate, and then all other 4 receivers were right around 50%. So that was a big hit for Coleman, who had typically been running around like 70, 80% of, Allen's dropbacks. Maybe it returns there this game. It should be a more pass heavy game script, maybe a potential trailing one for the Bills. But Coleman's really been a boom bust player who tends to see most of his targets downfield. So he could still make big plays in limited playing time. Just going to be tougher with limited snaps now. So, you know, I always view Coleman's best market being the longest reception market. I didn't see where that is right now, but usually it's around 16 and a half. I could see him catching one ball for 22 yards here. So that's kind of how I'm projecting him right now with the limited snaps. But yeah, the Ravens pass defense has been much better. So this is a really tricky matchup to be projecting the Bills. I'm always there with you with Amari Cooper being down on him, but this is the first week where I've actually Keon Coleman took a huge hit in my projections as well.
Dude, we were a Deontay Johnson meltdown away from 3 of the most annoying wide receiver rooms project of the 4 teams in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
The Texans with Deontay and all those other guys, like same amount of like split 50% snaps each. You have the Bills doing the same thing, and then the Chiefs are doing that with Hollywood and Hopkins, and then the Ravens could actually be all 4 because if Zay Flowers isn't back, now you kind of got to look at the Ravens as like one of those teams. Like what happens behind Bateman exactly? Anthony Miller was getting playing time these last few. So geez, this is like the Patriots
Bears
all
legend.
over again. Like
yeah,
oh man,
we didn't even get to talk about the Chiefs, but man, what a nightmare! Like Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, or one of those guys going to run a route on like 50% of Mahomes dropbacks? I don't know. Like all these teams.
Yeah, I don't have. We will talk about the Chiefs because I'll go there for the prop. So because I do want to talk about the Chiefs, but I agree the Bills.
Nice. Okay.
The Bills are tough too. The Bills are really tough too because the thing I keep coming back to is they want to do this whole feed everybody thing. That's the whole reason they got rid of Diggs. So they're purposely kind of doing this so that defenses can't get a beat. And really, the trend started with the Chiefs, right? Remember the Chiefs? It would be like we would keep thinking like, okay, Juju or MVS, whoever it was at the moment, Kadarius Toney is going to separate from the crowd, and Sky Moore, whoever the flavor of the month was. And it just never happened. It was like it would just vary from game to game. It was just Justin Watson until this year, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I have to really dive into like right now. I have them like Shakir like at 75%, and then the other guys around 50% because I have to really dive in and see if there's anything that we could look at that maybe says this guy's gonna play more than this guy, or matchup edges or whatnot. But early in the week, I'm with you. It's hard to really separate these guys, so you're probably better off leaning unders with a few of them, not even just Coleman, but. It's really tough to project. I'm low on Cooper Kupp. We saw him with just the 1 catch last week. This is a better environment for him in the sense that it could be a trailing game script, which means, just more pass volume. Stafford, I think, only attempted 27 last week, but it's hard to ignore the fact that even with Stafford's 27 attempts, Kupp left the game with 1 catch, and it was a good catch at that, where if he's not Cooper Kupp, he probably doesn't even make that catch. So I do think, physically he's fallen off a little bit. I was really surprised to see. This is when I knew. I know you were low on Kupp last week too, and you've been on him a bunch. So great calls on that. I was really surprised to see just how low Rams Nation, the Ramley or whatever they call it, is down on him. Like I was seeing, calls for like Jordan Whittington to start over him in the wild card round. And like usually fan bases are very protective of their star players, and like he'll get that going, but there just doesn't seem to be as much confidence in Kupp. And I mean, the results on the field speak for themselves. With Stafford just isn't targeting him as much, and those guys are best friends, I believe. So it's not going to be any love loss or anything. But it's a situation where Kupp could have a big game if the Rams get down really big early and just are kind of having to throw, and the Eagles are in a little more prevent than usual, but. If it's at any point close, and it could be with McVay, if McVay kind of plays his cards right and stays with the run, then I think it's going to be tough for Kupp to have a great game because those Eagles corners and secondary is so good, and I just don't think the Rams are going to come out passing at all. So, and if they do, the ball goes to Nakua first. And I mean, the fact that Tyler Higbee was able to catch 5 balls in like a quarter, and Cooper Kupp ended with 1 catch, I will say that is also very concerning to me. But this is high ceiling, but very lower median and lower floor than ever before.
I was kind of blown away. I didn't realize this morning, but do you know how many 1,000-yard seasons Cooper Kupp has in his career?
I'm gonna say it's either 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, 2.
No, 2, right? It was the one Triple Crown year, and I guess was his rookie year or his second year?
His third year.
Oh, okay. It was 2021, 2019. Yeah, so third year. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been hurt a lot. Yeah, he's been hurt a lot, and he's been kind of an underneath guy that's kind of not always had the yards per catch there. So, and this year was 10.6 yards per catch. So, it's been he's valuable to the team, and defenses still do respect him. But the fact that Stafford's been targeting him so much less. And so this is another tidbit I picked up from kind of following. I always like to follow the team beats and stuff more than just regular, betting advice or fantasy advice or whatever. I just think it's more informative for somebody that's in the position like this. You don't, hive mind and stuff. So I heard that there was a time around like week 12 where Sean McVay had a conversation with Kupp, after a practice or something. And it was around that time from thereafter, Nakua got the Kupp role. Where they move him around and Nakua is in that Kupp Triple Crown 2021 role now. Yeah. And I think that's really what the change has been. Whereas before it was we were seeing both of them kind of 50-50 split, who could go off, or both of them really go off every game. Now it's kind of back to, because Kupp is just in a slightly different role in terms of the progressions and whatnot. That's why we're seeing Nakua just be consistent and Kupp having a floor now, a low floor. So something I picked up. Like I said, Kupp could have a big game, high ceiling guy. Wouldn't fade him in DFS tournaments completely, but median outcomes, you're looking at another low catch, low yard potential game here. But speaking of which, we got to get back to this Chiefs situation because, the Bills are tough. The Houston might clear up a little bit with Deontay being out. The Chiefs are still tough because we don't have a large sample size of all their guys together. So the guys I'm most interested in are Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. So let's go with. I'm interested to see who you think top is the top receiver, because Nuke has been. They've been using him in the 50% range all season, but I did hear mention that there was some escalators with the comp pick formula that could have played into that. I don't know if it did, but so he there's a potential for an uptick here from him. But then also Hollywood is just kind of a guy who's getting a little bit more volume and on the field. So I'm gonna set the line just Hollywood Brown. Run, No, we're gonna do just receiving yardage. Hollywood Brown by a half a yard. So just so there's no ties. But essentially, which one has more receiving yardage this game?
Yeah, I have them basically tied. I'll go with Hollywood Brown though, just because his target rate has been so high. Obviously, it's going to come down, but I'm going to just give him the slight edge here, and I'm projecting them both right around 60%. Routes run rate. So I think that's a great line. I'd just rather have Brown here. And oh god, it sounds like Mecole Hardman could return. Could you imagine?
Yep. Yeah. I didn't even want to go there. I didn't want to stress you out before the decision. But that's another thing I've had it's just really tough.
And Juju's
to project.
Juju's route participation has been a lot higher than I remember. Just a nightmare to project. But I do think we see Brown's routes run rate go up quite a bit here. So I like the momentum with him and the target rate so far. But I'm very close.
Yeah, I do have Hopkins ahead. It's really tough to project because it's kind of like the Amari Cooper Matt Hollins situation where there's kind of been games where they've just played that same role where their total routes run rate can't really add up to more than 100. You know what I mean? You could project it at more than 100, but it might not actually happen like that in the game because they're playing the same route. That they're playing the same role. So that's something that's kind of with the Juju situation. That's what makes it difficult to kind of figure out is, are the roles going to change and they kind of try to get their best three guys in there, or is it going to be kind of what it has been? So that's kind of the same predicament when you're looking at a Cooper versus Mac Hollins situation, Coleman versus Sam. But it's really Cooper and Samuel now. I think, and then Coleman and Mac Hollins. So it's possible that this is just a 50-50 split all around with, with Hopkins, Brown, and then Smith-Schuster and Watson. They're kind of correlated too. So they usually add up to, like, depending on the game, it's like either between 80 to 100%. Usually we've been like 100 plus, but now with these guys here, so yeah, it's really tough. But I think that's the kind of way to exploit it, or like at least to project it, is pay attention to not just the rates, but the correlations between the players, like who is coming out and who's going in, and like what is their total adding up to, because that's what has it like me like really struggling with Hopkins and Brown, because it's they could be somewhat correlated, which is tough. Yeah, but I have Hopkins slightly ahead as of now.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I also noticed is when Brown returned, I think that took away from Noah Gray. Like, if you look at the tight end routes run, that took a hit. Obviously, Kelsey's going to be around 85, 90, especially in the playoffs. So I think like this could come at this expensive Noah Gray as well. So
I already have him. Like I have down 30. To like a 40%, right? Like 40% ish route run rate. And
so that's
but there's also I think he's a sneaky player to fade regardless. But what makes it more difficult with the receivers is that because of the Texans' pressure performance last week, you could get a lot of 2 tight end sets from the Chiefs, where Noah Gray just ends up being the blocking tight end. So still fadeable, but that also just means less wide receiver routes available on the field. So it's a really tough situation. But I kind of like the Bills. There should be some undervalue here somewhere. It's just gotta find it.
Yeah, I looked. Noah Gray's prop is 10.5. That's kind of hard to fade.
Oh, so they're ahead. Oh man, that's sharp. I give the books credit. That's a good line.
It's almost like the market's pretty sharp. It's got to have to. It's gonna have to be a running back. It's got to have it, like Pacheco or P. Ryan under 1.5 receptions. One of those two. It's got to be the play here.
Hunt's under one. Oh, they're probably not going to even float that. Hunt would be the under.
No,
they
do. It's minus 190 though. That's fun.
We'll do it on Convince Me so Chad can take the. We know he loves juice. Shout out to Chad Millman. All right. That's good discussion. Watch out for our projections, of course, which can be found on fantasylabs.com regarding all of these different wide receiver situations, because we do update quite a bit throughout the week as we kind of dig in even more, and just anything with the injury report, or just potential game plan situations that could be revealed. So keep up update with that, and let's go to tight end. Top 5 for the divisional round. Sean Kerner, who you got?
Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, and Zach Ertz.
So I'm under the assumption I'm projecting Zay Flowers is out as of now. So take that with the reason I have Mark Andrews number 1 is because of that. But I have Mark Andrews, Kelce, Laporta, and Zach Ertz. And wait, that's 4, huh? I don't think I wrote a 5th tight end. Well, that makes sense. I don't like any of the other tight ends. No, let me see who I got.
Dallas Goedert. Did you mention him?
Oh no, I missed Goddard. No, Goddard is my tight end 4. Sorry, and then Ertz number 5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I like the matchup for Goddard against the Rams. Our guy Hawkinson got there on Action Island with 60 plus. Oh yeah, I think it was a touchdown. So so I like the matchup again for tight ends against the Rams, but Eagles always tough to predict how much they're going to need to throw. Who are you high on for this week?
Yeah, so this morning I projected Higbee out because he went to the hospital for that chest injury. And I was ready to talk about Colby Parkinson, but it sounds like Higbee's expected to play. So assuming, that hospitalization was more of a precautionary thing and the injury's minor and Higbee plays this week, I'm high on Tyler Higbee just because I think you mentioned it. He had 5 catches in the first quarter. Clearly Stafford has been missing his stud tight end, so he was targeting him early and often. But even after Higbee left the game, they targeted the 3 other tight ends 2 times each. So Stafford was just targeting the tight end. Maybe this kind of has to do with the downfall of Cooper Kupp that you were talking about, where it's just kind of Puka Nacua and then whatever tight is in there. So I like Tyler Higbee's upside this week, assuming he plays. I'm going to be projecting him around like a 65% routes run rate. And he's been seeing a healthy target share outside of last week as well. So assuming he's good to go, like I'm going to be on high on Tyler Higbee here.
This is like he's the toughest I think tight end to project because like 65% that would be higher than he's had in any game this season, I believe, right? Because like he got knocked out of the last one, and then he only had like
he was probably trending to run around on like 70%. I need to go look. I mean, I'm just this is really Tuesday morning projection stuff.
48% in the week 18 game.
Yeah, where nobody, all the starters were out. He's back in action. But last week, if you take the percentage of snaps he was in there until he got hurt, I think he was trending for like a 70+% game. But then he got hurt, so it's hard to say. But yeah, I'm expecting a massive uptick if he's healthy and he can finish the whole game, just based on his usage. He played like a quarter and a half last week. And he had a 34% routes run rate. So I think he was trending to be over 60% last week.
Yeah, but he also couldn't get through the game and then coughed up blood and spent the night in the hospital. Like that's what I'm getting at is it's hard. Like it's always hard in these situations when like there's no precedent and you're essentially projecting outside of the normal like standard deviation.
Yeah,
like it's a really tough. I agree with you. No, he's and he would have a great matchup too because not a great matchup. I shouldn't say that, but he would be very important in this matchup because number one, the Eagles still have those cornerbacks that, Rams receivers are great, but still a down tick in production compared to usual. And number two, with Nakobe Dean being injured, that just helps, Higbee's matchup a little more, underneath. So, yeah, I agree with you, but, we'll see how, hopefully he's good to go for this one.
And, yeah, hopefully, again, this is just, I felt like talking about him. We all know I'm high on Travis Kelce. He's my tight end one. Not much to add there, but another thing with Higbee, he's seen over a 30% target rate in the last 3 games. Just everything about his underlying usage has been good. I'm not betting on any of his props yet. I don't think any exist. Not setting any DFS lineups with him in it yet. Way too early for that. But definitely just a situation to monitor, and hopefully he's good to go. But if he is, I think we could see a big game from him.
If he's not, but yeah, I think probably uptick for Kyren. If Higbee's out, it's probably Kyren, and it's probably Parkinson gets a little bit more, but I think all the other guys will be involved. So yeah, just got to monitor that. I am high on Dallas Goedert. Not a massive lean, but I do like the matchup for him against the Rams, just like I did for Hawkinson. On that Monday night game, I just think the Rams, that's where they're weakest defensively based on their scheme, is up against tight ends, and you tend to see them give up a higher than average production. Let's see what's theirs. Let me look at their schedule adjusted real quick. It is, okay. So the Rams give up 61.3 schedule adjusted receiving yards per game to tight ends. That's 5th most in the league per FTN. So that is kind of been the case all year. I think you'd rather Dallas Goedert catching balls on you than AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. I'm assuming Brown is good to go. With his injury, he did play. He was reading a book, but he did play his normal allotment of snaps. So I do think this is a good spot for Goddard, and he looks like he's in good form. Probably fresh after missing half the year due to injury, but had a nice angry touchdown catch and whatnot. So yeah, like him, eight catches, 97 yards, and 1 touchdown to the Viking tight end. We saw all 3 of them catch balls. Hawkinson, Josh Oliver, and Munt against the Vikings. So this is a spot that they're a little bit weaker. So like Goddard, who are you low on?
I'm low on Dalton Schultz. Opens the week as my tight end 8. I almost bet his under last week, too bad I didn't, because he caught a couple of catches early on, but then just didn't do anything the rest of the way. Texans didn't have to throw much once they got up big, but Schultz has really settled into 2 to 3 catches for 20 to 30 yards, despite running her out on 80% of Stroud's dropbacks most weeks. So I'm expecting more of the same this week. Just not too much to get too excited about Dalton Schultz. So he's my tight end 8 to open the week.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked being low on him a little bit more before they cut Deontay Johnson and what's his name, Stover got put on IR. But you are the Schultz playoff under whisperer. I think
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
you had his under. I think it was last wild card, I want to say, and he had like this one long catch earlier, and it was like a sweat,
Yep.
but he ended up clearing it, or maybe it was his reception total. But yeah, I don't know if I'm low on him this week. I'm probably more worried about the Texan non-Nico receivers because Spagnuolo always seems to just have a game plan, and like they threw so much to Mechie last game that now he's going to be on the radar. So yeah, I got to look more into this matchup, but maybe we'll just see a lot of Dare and Agunbowale this week.
I think he was the cardio king last week. I think he ended up being the cardio king.
Okay.
Most routes run without.
How many routes?
I think it was like 14, 10, 14, something like that. But I'll have to double check that. But
yeah, because we had a Jahan Dotson touchdown catch, an early Demarcus Robinson catch. So there's a lot of guys that usually were in the running that
exactly
weren't quite there this week. I think even Grant Calcaterra might have even got caught a pass last week. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, I think he did. Yeah.
All right, I am low on a guy we briefly touched on earlier, Noah Gray. I just think that this is kind of a double-edged sword for Gray, and he's been playing really well, finally starting to get involved in the red zone, but there's a couple of factors that could work against him from both sides. So, number one, the Chiefs finally have their true wide receiving core that they want to, go forward with healthy. You got Hopkins, you got Marquise Brown, and you have Worthy really emerging and kind of cementing a role where he's getting 80+% of the snaps. So there's just a few less of those double tight end sets that are needed. When they are in must pass situations, sometimes they would just do that out of necessity because Gray was their next best pass catcher. But also they could go with a lot of 2 tight end sets still, but I think Gray would probably end up chipping and blocking a little bit more than usual because of just how well the Texans edge rushers played and how much of a concern that would be, for the Chiefs, who have had issues at tackle all year long and have had to even move one of their interior linemen, which is a strength, to tackle to compensate. So I think there's kind of 2 different angles working against Noah Gray in this spot. So he's the guy that I'm really expecting a downtick. And it looks like, I think you said the market was at like 10.5.
10.5.
We just spoke about that earlier, 10.5 yards. So that kind of tells you that that's a big downtick for Noah Gray, in the market as well. So that's the guy that kind of jumps out the most. All right. We have a prop and then we're out of here. What you got, Sean?
Let's go with Dallas Goedert, your boy. Total receiving yards here. I'm going to set it at 36.5. But yeah, I agree with you. Like his underlying metrics have been phenomenal, but do you have a AJ Brown squeaky wheel factor in there at all?
I don't have the AJ Brown squeaky wheel factor because I think AJ Brown might be a little bit hurt. So I think that's kind of playing into, and it's also Jalen Hurts where it's like, isn't he always squeaking to Jalen? Like it seems like every time I look at their sideline, until last week he was actually reading a book, he's usually squeaking. So no, none of that. That is a good line though. I'm gonna go over. I have it slightly over by like a yard. But just because of this matchup, because there's a potential that AJ Brown could be a little bit more banged up than he's alluding to, and just the way the Rams have guarded tight ends, and how well Goddard played, I still think he's in a good situation where like you still have 3 other guys that you have to game plan for ahead of Goddard, and this has already been the weakness of the Rams defense. So I like that situation enough to go with the over, but that's a good line. It's probably 3 to 4 catches is probably going to be his median outcome most weeks. All right, that's going to do it for our divisional round player projections episode here on the Fantasy Flex podcast. Make sure to continue to subscribe to the pod so you don't miss an episode. We're still doing 2 a week. We'll do this one, and then we'll have our touchdown show that drops on Thursday. FantasyLabs.com is where all of our fantasy football content, rankings, and projections are. You can use code FLEX40 for $40 off, and you can find Sean on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until the touchdown show, let's get this money.